Good morning, children. Let us conclude the chapter, the French Revolution, today. Last time we did the outbreak of the revolution. How did the revolution begin? What were the circumstances? Now, today we will start another important heading, that is how France abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic. How France abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic. Now, here you must remember that the condition of France at this time was not good. The atmosphere was tense, and Louis XVI entered into secret negotiations with the King of Prussia. Now, the rulers of other countries also were worried about the conditions of France, because we have read that now the people who belong to the third estate, they were gaining power, they were becoming stronger. So the rulers of other countries also were worried about the condition of France at this time, and they planned to put down the events. They planned to bring the situation under their control rather than the situation be left in the hands of the third estate. But before this, the National Assembly, do you remember the National Assembly was elected? But before this, the National Assembly declared a war against Prussia and Austria. So before Prussia and other countries could bring the situation in France under their control, the National Assembly, which was elected some time back, it declared a war against Prussia and Austria. The people had to face lots of hardships due to these wars, because we all know that whenever there is a war, the common people are the worst sufferers. So the people had to face lots of hardships due to these wars. Large sections of people were convinced that the revolution should continue, as the constitution gave political rights only to the rich people in the society. So the common people wanted this revolution to continue because it was in their favor. This revolution, if it was allowed to continue, would give the constitution the right to fight for the common people. Till now, only the rich people in the society were given political rights. But now, with the growing revolution, the common people demanded their rights. One very important aspect under this heading is that the political clubs were formed. Please remember, children, in this heading, this part is very important. In order to ensure that the common people also got their political rights, political clubs were formed, and the most important, the most famous political club was the Jacobins Club. This you will have to learn, this you will have to remember always. In order to ensure political stability, in order to grant political rights to the common people, Jacobins Club was formed. Members of this club belong to the less prosperous sections of the society. Members of this club, the Jacobins Club, belong to the less prosperous sections of the society. That means those sections of the society which were not very privileged sections. They were common man who was always deprived of all the privileges. So the members of this club belong to less prosperous sections of the society. They were like small shopkeepers, shoemakers, etc. And another important thing here in this paragraph is that the leader of the Jacobins Club was Robespierre. Please remember, the leader of the Jacobins Club was Robespierre. You will have to learn this. I will tell you later on. There's a question also which will come as Robespierre's government. Main features of the Robespierre's government. This we will do later on. Jacobins was against the high prices of bread and short supplies of essential goods. Now, as I just told you, that in order to ensure that political rights were given to the common people, Jacobins Club was formed. And what was the main task of this Jacobins Club? Or we can say, what was the main task of Jacobin? Jacobin was against the high prices of bread and short supplies of essential goods. That means he fought for the common man. He fought to ensure that common people, the deprived classes of the society, got bread at reasonable prices, and also short supplies of essential goods was done away with. That means people, the common people, got all essential commodities, all essential goods without any problem. Later, the revolt began. The king was imprisoned for some time. Elections were held, and from now, all men who were 21 years of age and above got the right to vote. This was a very, very important political right which was given to the common people after the Jacobins Club was formed. I am repeating what is important here. Revolts began later on under whom? Under Robespierre, under the Jacobins Club. The king was imprisoned. King Louis XVI was imprisoned for some time. Elections were held, and after the elections, it was declared that all those men who were 21 years of age or above had the right to vote. In these elections, all those people, the common people who were 21 years of age or above, got the right to vote. This is a very important part of Jacobins Club, or you can say the most important political right which was given to the common people after the Jacobins Club was formed. Now, another important thing in this heading is that the newly elected assembly was called the convention. A new assembly was formed which was called the convention. In 1792, it abolished monarchy. Who abolished? The newly formed assembly which was called the convention. In 1792, it abolished monarchy and declared France a republic. Declared France a republic. Now another question here is, what is a republic? A republic is a form of government where the people elect the government, including the head of the government. If you know, maybe you know, India is also a republic. So what is a republic? A republic is a form of government where the people elect the government, including the head of the government. There is no hereditary monarchy. That means it is not that when the prime minister will die, his son will become the next prime minister. No, it is not that. Elections are held, the people elect their leader, including the head of the government, that is the leader himself, and other members of the government. So this is a republic. So a very important thing what happened here in 1792, France was no more a monarchy, it was declared a republic. Louis XVI was sentenced to death and he was executed. That means he was hanged publicly in 1793. So here came an end to the autocratic rule of Louis XVI and France became a republic henceforth. Now we will start another important heading, that is Reign of Terror. After the death of Louis XVI, there was a reign of terror in France. Reign of terror, as the heading itself suggests, that means atmosphere of terror all around. Before I start this heading, children, whatever I have told you just now regarding France abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic, this I have told you in brief. I will suggest you that you must read this from your textbook that you have downloaded, the NCERT textbook, and again, if you don't understand any particular line or any particular paragraph, just note it down somewhere in your rough so that when we meet in school, you can always ask me, I will repeat that part. Now, Reign of Terror. The period of 1793 to 1794 is referred to as Reign of Terror. Robespierre followed a policy of severe control and punishment. As we have just seen that Robespierre formed his own government, as I told you that Robespierre formed his own government, and Jacobins Club with the leader as Robespierre fought for the rights of the people, fought for the rights of the common man. So Robespierre followed a policy of severe control and punishment. All those whom he saw as being enemies of the republic, that is the ex-nobles, the clergy, members of other political parties, even members of his own party who did not agree with his methods, were arrested, imprisoned, and then tried by the Revolutionary Tribunal. That means all those people, whether they belong to his party, any other party, the clergy, the nobility, or any other person, if Robespierre found that those people, the group of people or any particular individual, if he was going against the republican form of government which was newly formed in France, then he was not left. He was arrested, he was imprisoned, and then put to jail. If the court found them guilty, they were guillotined. Guillotined is a new word in this paragraph, children. The meaning is also given. I will just read it for you. What is the meaning of guillotine? The guillotine is a device consisting of two poles and a blade with which a person is beheaded. That means between two poles there is a blade and the head of the person is kept in between and the head is cut off. This system was called as guillotine. It was named after Dr. Guillotin, who invented it. Robespierre's government issued laws placing a maximum ceiling on wages and prices. Placing a maximum ceiling on wages and prices means the high prices of bread which were raising higher and higher, the wages which were not very uniformly distributed among the society, those were brought under check. Lot of supervision was put on wages and prices. Meat and bread were rationed. That means it was ensured that meat and bread were given to everybody through rationing, because when rationing is given, then equal quantity of a particular thing is given to every individual, so that nobody is deprived. Everybody gets that particular commodity. Meat and bread were rationed. Peasants were forced to transport their grain to the cities and sell it at prices fixed by the government. The use of more expensive white flour was forbidden. All citizens were required to eat the pain d'égalité, that is equality bread. Equal food was given to everybody, whether he belonged to high class nobility or the common man or the clergy. No discrimination was now on any basis. A loaf made of whole wheat, that is atta. Equality was also sought to be practiced through forms of speech and address. Address here does not mean residential address, but address means how people were called. You must have heard that during the British time, people were given the titles of sir and madam. So at this time, such kind of address, such kind of titles were abolished. Instead of traditional monsieur, that is sir, and madame, that is madam, all French men and women were henceforth citoyen and citoyenne, that is citizen. Churches were shut down and their buildings converted into barracks or offices. Robespierre pursued his policies so relentlessly that even his supporters began to demand moderation. That means he followed his policies which were mainly focusing on equality among all citizens. His policies were so strictly followed that even people who were his supporters demanded a little moderation, a little relaxation in the implementation of his policies. Finally, he was convicted by the court in July 1794, arrested, and on the next day sent to the guillotine. Now another important, a small but an important heading is a directory rules France. The fall of the Jacobin government allowed the wealthier middle classes to seize power. Now, as we have just read, that Jacobin's government under Robespierre worked for giving equality to the common people. But when this government fell, when this government came to an end, then again the wealthier, the rich middle class people wanted to bring power under their control. A new constitution was introduced which denied the vote to non-propertied sections of society. Earlier we have just read that right to vote was given to every person who was 21 years of age or above. But now again a new constitution was introduced which denied the vote to non-propertied sections of society. Those who did not have large property under their control, they were again not given the right to vote. It provided for 2 elected legislative councils. These then appointed a directory, an executive made up of 5 members. Directory was what? An executive body consisting of 5 members. This was meant as a safeguard against the concentration of power in one-man executive as under Jacobins. However, the directors often clashed with the legislative councils who then sought to dismiss them. All these lines are not very important. I am just reading so that you are familiar. The political instability of the directory paved the way for the rise of military dictator Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, as after the fall of the Jacobins government, when the rich middle class people wanted to bring power under their control, and again the non-propertied sections of the people were not given the right to vote, slowly and steadily we have seen that there was again political instability. Again there was a political setback in France, and it gave rise to military dictatorship under Napoleon Bonaparte. A new leader came to the forefront, Napoleon Bonaparte. I am sure you must have heard the name of Napoleon earlier. Through all these changes in the form of government, the ideals of freedom, of equality before law, and of fraternity remained inspiring ideals that motivated political movements in France and the rest of Europe during the following century. So we have concluded in this paragraph. What did we understand? That although different forms of government changed, different things happened, different political changes came, but 3 important ideals did not change now. Which 3 ideals? Ideals of freedom, of equality before law, and fraternity. That means freedom, equality, and fraternity. These 3 ideals remained an inspiring, or you can say a motivational factor in France and the rest of Europe also in the following century. Now another thing is that did women also involve themselves in the revolution, or only men were taking part? No. Women also had a very important role in the revolution. Women always showed their active participation in the French society. Please listen carefully, children, and you must read it later on. I have summarized the paragraph for you so that I can tell you all important things in this paragraph. But later on, you must read it line by line. Women always showed their active participation in the French society. But most of these women were not educated and did not get any job training. Only daughters of nobles or rich families were sent to convents to study. So till now you have seen that in the French society women were not educated and they were not given training in jobs also. Only the girls of the rich families went to schools. Working women also had to take care of their houses. Their wages were lower than men, so there was no equality in wages also. So they started making their own political clubs. Till now we have read about Jacobins club, but now women also started making their own political clubs to get equality in the society. Their main demand was to get some political rights as men. They demanded the right to vote, to be elected in the assembly, and to hold political office. The revolutionary government made some laws to improve the condition of women. Schooling was made compulsory for girls. So this was the scenario when the revolutionary government saw that women are also becoming stronger, they are also making their clubs, so they were given some rights later on. One right was that schooling was made compulsory for girls. Then their fathers could not force them to marry against their will. This was another provision which was made for women, or for girls, you can say. Divorce was made legal and could be applied by both men and women. This was another privilege given to women. They could file a divorce case, and like men, they could also fight for their divorce. But during the Reign of Terror, women's clubs were closed and political activities were banned. So these political clubs which were formed by women were only for a short period of time. When the Reign of Terror, this period started, then women's clubs were closed and their political activities banned. Women continued to fight for the right to vote and equal wages. So this important political right was not given to women earlier. Only men, only propertied men were given the right to vote in the beginning. Then later on, those men who were 21 years of age or more, they were given the right to vote. Then again, when the wealthy middle class sections of the people gained power, then they again tried to take away the right to vote. All those who were non-propertied sections of the society, they were not given the right to vote. But here, women fought for this political right. They demanded the right to vote. They demanded equal wages for their work. They were given low wages till now. And finally, in 1946, women in France were given the right to vote. Another important thing here which you will study now is abolition of slavery. This was one of the most important reforms of the Jacobin regime. Abolition of slavery was one of the most important things done by Jacobin or government under Robespierre. Slave trade began in the 17th century. French merchants sailed from ports of Bordeaux or Nantes to the African coast, where they bought slaves from local merchants. This part I am just reading for your information. You don't have to learn this part. Throughout the 18th century, there was little criticism of slavery in France. Very natural, because earlier it was believed that if the slaves would exist in France, they would help in some way or the other in the economic growth of the country. So slavery was not, nobody tried to stop slavery in France in the 18th century. Throughout the 18th century, there was little criticism of slavery in France. Finally, a convention in 1794 was made laws to free all the slaves. So in 1794, it was considered that the slaves should be freed. But after some time, Napoleon again reintroduced slavery. Plantation owners believed that they had freedom to keep African Negroes as slaves to fulfill their economic interests. As I just told you, that the people believed that if they will keep slaves, it will help in some way or the other in improving their economic prosperity. That is why those people who owned large pieces of land, the plantation owners, they believed that they had freedom to keep African Negroes as slaves to fulfill their economic interests. Slavery was finally abolished in French colonies in 1848. So till 1848, slavery continued, and finally in 1848, slavery was abolished from France. Now I am coming towards the conclusion of the chapter, children. In 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself Emperor of France. He set out to conquer neighboring European countries, dispossessing dynasties and creating kingdoms where he placed members of his family. Napoleon saw his role as a modernizer of Europe. He introduced many laws such as the protection of private property and a uniform system of weights and measures provided by the decimal system. Initially, many saw Napoleon as a liberator who would bring freedom for the people. But soon, Napoleonic armies came to be viewed everywhere as an invading force. He was finally defeated at Waterloo in 1815. Many of his measures that carried the revolutionary ideas of liberty and modern laws to other parts of Europe had an impact on people long after Napoleon had left. The ideas of liberty and democratic rights were the most important legacy of the French Revolution. This line is very important here. I am reading this line again. The ideas of liberty and democratic rights were the most important legacy of the French Revolution. The most important gift which the French Revolution gave to the world was ideas of liberty and democratic rights. These spread from France to the rest of Europe during the 19th century, where feudal systems were abolished. Colonized peoples reworked the idea of freedom from bondage into their movements to create a sovereign nation state. Tipu Sultan and Ram Mohan Roy are two examples of individuals who responded to the ideas coming from revolutionary France. So, the French Revolution brought the concept of liberty, equality, and fraternity. The French Revolution paved the way for several revolutions later on, which the world saw. Alright, now, children, I have finished the chapter here. Now, again, my advice, please read whatever I have told today. I have told many important things today in a summarized way. Some of the things I have told you in summarized way, some of the things I have read directly. Please read each and everything carefully and slowly, and wherever you find there is a problem, keep noting down your problems. Keep writing them down together in your rough copy, so that when we meet later on, you are most welcome to ask your problems, to clear your doubts as many times as you want. Now, again, I am coming to some of the questions. Last time I did 5 questions with you. Today I will start with the 6th question, and I will tell you the answers also simultaneously, which you will write later on in your copies. The first question for today is, in your copy it will be the 6th question. What was the slogan of the French revolutionaries? The answer is liberty, equality and fraternity. Liberty, equality and fraternity. I am repeating the question. What was the slogan of the French revolutionaries? The answer is, the slogan of the French revolutionaries was liberty, equality and fraternity. 7th question. In which book did Rousseau mention the idea of one person, one vote? The answer is The Social Contract. The name of the book was The Social Contract. Please remember, children, write all answers in complete sentences. Don't write any answer in one word. Question number 8. Name the 4 French philosophers who inspired the French people to revolt. I am repeating the question. Name the 4 French philosophers who inspired the French people to revolt. And the answer is, the 4 philosophers were Rousseau, spellings are Roussseau, comma, Montesquieu, spelling is Montesquieu. The spelling is long and the spelling is new to you, so please learn the spellings by heart. Then 3rd philosopher is Voltaire. Voltaire. And the last is Robespierre. 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 Another question is, when did France abolish the monarchy and become a republic? When did France abolish the monarchy and become a republic? The answer is 21st September 1792. 21st September 1792. Another question is, who was the leader of the Jacobin Club? Who was the leader of the Jacobin Club? And the answer here is Robespierre. 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 The last question for today is, what do you mean by republic? What do you mean by republic? And the answer is, a republic is a government. A republic is a form of government where the people elect the government, including the head of the government. A republic is a form of government where the people elect the government, including the head of the government. There is no hereditary monarchy. There is no hereditary hereditary monarchy. So these 11 questions, children, you will have to do in your copies. Alright, and do your work regularly. Keep completing your work. When we will meet in school, then we will do some more questions based on this chapter, French Revolution. Thank you. Have a nice day.